Hi, and thanks for watching this video on how to get an A in TOK. I'm an experienced IB teacher who's taught more than 200 IB diploma students, most of whom were TOK candidates. And something that I've noticed is that what students struggle the most in IB2 and TOK is the editing process. So I'm super excited because I have someone today who achieved an A in TOK, who is here to share with you the process that he went through while he was editing his TOK essay to get it up to an A. We're going to be focusing on the TOK essay because the TOK essay has more weight than the TOK presentation, so it's absolutely essential to do well on that if you want to have an overall average of an A in the TOK grade. And today I've got George Papasotiriou with me. Thank you for coming, George.
Thank you for having me. So my first tip would be to not be afraid to start your essay again. And I mean, as many drafts as you want. Personally, I had more than 10 drafts, and it can be kind of discomforting for students to actually open a new document, a blank document, once they have an existing document, but each time you redraft your essay, it gets better every time. And what I did that really helped me is that I picked the strongest parts out of each draft, and then I kind of included that in my second draft, and I did that in my third draft and fourth draft, and so on, until I had a hybrid draft, which encapsulated all the points that I wanted to include, and that was the main frame for my final TOK essay.
What else did you do that helped?
Well, one thing I did is that I reached out to experts in the areas of knowledge that my essay was covering, and whether this be a teacher in your school, a person you know, an expert, or a graduate that is currently studying one of the areas of knowledge in university, I mean, all opinions matter. For example, what I did is that I gave my essay to the psychology teacher of our school, or I gave it to a philosophy graduate, and they actually gave me their opinions on my examples that I encapsulated in my essay, or for the way I was describing the field, and they gave me tips and hints because I personally didn't study psychology in the IB, so my knowledge for this area was limited. And it's never bad to ask for a second perspective for your essay, and it doesn't even have to be an expert in a field. It can be fresh eyes, because TOK can get quite confusing and rather complicated, so your essay might, personally, my first drafts, whenever I'd read them, I'd get a headache, and I felt that this was because I wasn't actually focusing on the right things, and new eyes and new perspectives actually showed me what I should change, what I should keep, and how I should amend it accordingly.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Well, the final thing would be to focus on the introduction of your essay, because that's the most important part. Your introduction is kind of the nucleus of the essay, and where you compress everything that you want to say in the essay in it. And I felt that I spent most of my time on my introduction, and it was actually the longest paragraph of my essay, and within it I followed some certain rules that I'd like to share with you, and the most important one would be, don't be afraid to challenge the question, because the knowledge question is there for you it's debatable, it's there for you to ask questions regarding the question. So what I did is that I started specifying parts of the question, and I started claiming that certain parts of the question were vague, and I actually expanded on those points throughout my essay. For example, my TOK essay was, without application in the world, the value of knowledge is greatly diminished. And what I did, and what I encourage all of you to do, is to challenge the knowledge claim, because just because the IB has published it doesn't necessarily mean that it is valid or correct in such a broad manner. For example, I stated that mine is problematic for a number of reasons, because the type of knowledge is not specified in this question, for example. And moreover, it doesn't state who gives value to this knowledge. So already there are two problems that you should explore within your essay, and the IB expects you to do so. So don't be afraid, don't feel like it's wrong or you will be marked down if you challenge your knowledge claim. And secondly, what I did is that you should state in your introduction the knowledge claims and the knowledge issues that you are going to explore. And you should kind of give the structure of your essay in your introduction, because this doesn't only make it easier to read, but it also gives the examiner an impression of what you're going to talk about. And this is actually easier for them to kind of form an opinion from early on about what grade or what ranking this essay falls under. So,
And finally, the last thing that I did in my introduction is that I stated my arguments at the very end, and in a way I answered the knowledge claim, but only in summarized points that I was going to explore later on.
Thank you, George, for sharing these tips and your experience with us. If you like this video...